Hi, welcome back to Taji's World of Books, and this is my weekly reading wrap-up. Hey everybody, welcome back, and as you can see from the tag, this is my weekly reading wrap-up where I go through all the books that I read from last Friday to this Thursday, and I'm going to go through just a brief synopsis and tell you about the books that I read. I read a wide assortment of different types of books, and I'm pretty excited to share them with you today. So this week I read 11 books, and they're across different genres. So without further ado, let's get into the books that I read. Okay, it's taken me a while to get to this. I know that many other people have already talked about this, but I finally read J.R. Ward's most recent publication of A Warm Heart in Winter, and this is Blaylock or Blay and Quinn's story. And I heard mixed things about this book, but you know what? I loved this story. There was a part in this story where I was absolutely in tears. This is a sort of wrap-up of Blay and Quinn's story. I had heard that it's their mating ceremony story, and yes, that's a part of it, but it's so much more. It's the story of forgiveness. It's Quinn's story with his brother Lucas, and a wrap-up of what happened with that. You're seeing also more of Lassiter, and Lassiter coming into his own now that the Virgin Scribe is no longer, and Lassiter is taking over that role. You're also seeing Quinn and Blay settle into their role as co-parenters with Cor and Layla. I didn't see as much of Cor and Layla as I would have liked to. I feel like people really don't like Layla and Cor because of how their relationship came together, which I thought that The Chosen was an excellent book, so I don't feel quite the same way. You also see that things are not quite the way that Quinn thought that they were with his brother Lucas. And so some things are revealed in this book that you see Quinn starts to respect Lucas much more than he ever has. Also, you see the development of the relationship between Zadist and how much of an impact Zadist has on Quinn's life. And so that also is revealed. I just thought it was a beautiful story. It was well written, and it's a story that's worth telling. And so I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I was so excited for it, and it delivered in all the ways that I had anticipated. And you get cameos from, of course, the brothers and Rage and Wrath. You also get to hear from Run. So it was just really well done, and I really appreciated it, and it was a refreshing read, so a 5-star for me for this. Okay, you guys know that, and as I was thinking about preparing this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I don't want to give spoilers. I just think it ruins the whole experience. I can remember when, if you guys remember way back when the Blair Witch Project came out, somebody told me about that story, and the way that they told it to me basically spoiled the whole thing, so that the watching experience for me was really changed as a result of that. And likewise with The Sixth Sense. You know, somebody said, oh yeah, you're gonna love it. I can't believe he was a ghost. And I was like, what? And then when I watched it from like the jump, I was like, you totally ruined it for me. So I'm very careful to not do that to other people. So with this book, this is a K. Webster, and it's called Whispers and the Roars. And it is best that you go into this completely blind. It is a story of a broken hero or heroine who has experienced a tremendous amount of abuse, and it is the story of survival and love, and it's beautiful, and it's also really hard to read, and there are trigger warnings for sure in here that you need to pay attention to. Like right off the bat, she says Whispers and the Roars is a dark romance. It has strong sexual themes and violence, which could trigger emotional distress, and they're found in this story. She also, in the very beginning, she gives you a note to the readers that you should read and pay attention to, and it tells you that this is not a typical romance, and there's nothing typical about this story. She did a lot of research. K. Webster did a lot of research to write this book, and she did a very good job at representation in this book. And she also talks about how it took her a very long time to write this story. So know that it's a dark romance. Know that there are strong themes in this book. know that the representation is very spot on. She did a very good job with it. It's worth a read. It's worth a conversation. But again, go into it blind. Because of my background and because of my profession, I very quickly figured out what was going on, but I don't think that the typical reader will be able to establish what's going on. But once you understand, you are so there for it and rooting for them and wanting things to work out well. And it's just redemption and not giving up and hanging in there for the people that you love and being willing to make sacrifices. I don't hear enough conversation about this book on BookTube, which I'm surprised about. There should be more conversation because Webster delivered in this one. This was a 4 out of 5 star for me. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was a good read and definitely worth a read. Okay, so next, you guys know that I love dark romance, and so I read and I love T.M. Frazier, so I've been waiting for the spin-off series, and I'll post up here the T.M. Frazier dark romance recommendations that I did previously a couple weeks ago, so I'll post that there for you guys. And this is a follow-up to that. This is Pike, and then the follow-up is Pawn. And so I read both of those together, so I'm not going to tell you too much about this story. However, I do want you to know he meets her, and there are no spoilers here. He meets her as he's driving home one night, and he finds this straggly girl on the side of the road who is dazed and confused and doesn't know what's going on. And he stops and he picks her up and he's talking to her, and very quickly he discovers, he's like, either you're totally crazy or there's something wrong with you. I don't know what it is, but there's something up. And so she directs him to where she lives. He takes her home, and he's very quickly, she's talking to people. He's like, who are you talking to? There's nobody there. What's going on? And she gets to be a little bit hysterical, so he is attracted to her. So he's like, I'm just going to distract her. And so he kisses her. And so he's like, oh, I probably shouldn't do this. This girl's crazy. Make a long story short, somebody hits him on the back of the head and he's out for the count. And that's all he knows. And you don't hear any more about what happens. And fast forward 4 years later, and the story takes place from there. Again, T.M. Frazier did a great job of weaving this story, which is a story of hatred. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of trust. It's a story of forgiveness. There's also abuse. There's also neglect, lies, deceit. It is so well done, and Pike has been through so much in his life and been through the system where he now takes in other kids so that he can support them and ensure that they don't have to go through what he did. And again, it's a story of trust. So Pike, and then the follow-up is Pawn, and it is an excellent conclusion to this story. And I love the heroine in this story because she has 160 IQ, so she's really, really intelligent, but she's very quirky at the same time. And Pike has a learning disability, and he has dysgraphia and probably some dyslexia as well. And so as a result, they kind of mesh really well together. And I love, at the end of Pawn, which is the second book in the Duet, T.M. Frazier talks about how, without giving out any spoilers, she talks about how difficult it was to write this book for her in the face of COVID, as well as in the face of George Floyd's murder, and in the face of everything that's been happening in the United States with respect to race relations in this country. And so again, if you can see, you can draw your own conclusions if we're talking about race relations in this country, what comes up in this story as a result of hatred and violence against other people for no other reason other than who they were born to be. And so she just talked about how painful and how difficult, but how important this story is to write. And she did a great, great job with it. And so to get the best of the reading experiences, you should check out my dark romance with T.M. Frazier and reading all of the King series and reading them all the way through, because you do get cameos from those characters in this book and you get to see how they're doing. And this book takes place, these two books takes place right after the novella of King of the Causeway. So this one almost overlaps in the sense that it happens a little bit before, and then the rest of it takes place just after, and then this one picks up just after that. So if you read all of those together along with this, you're going to be right on pace for what's happening, and you get to find out who, I remember I told you in King of the Causeway, there's like a new person in town that's like pushing the boundaries in terms of they want to take over and be the new King of the Causeway. This story answers those questions, so they did a great job here. And Rage also makes an appearance there as well. Okay, so I must have been on a K. Webster kick because I also read Apartment 2B. And this is a cool story because this is like a mystery, like a Stephen King mystery, but like with smut attached to it, right? Like it's a love story for sure. But again, K. Webster writes some deep stuff, right? So the heroine in this story, her name is Sydney. Sydney is, it starts off with Sydney living with her mother, and her mother is absolutely abusive and neglectful, and has been since she was about 10 years old, when her father abandoned the family, and as a result, the mother went totally crazy. So the story takes place from there. I don't want to tell you too much because, again, you want to go into this blind because it makes the most for the reading experience. But she does meet a love interest, and you've got to figure some stuff out about the love interest. But there is healing that takes place because Sydney has never been on her own and doesn't know how to survive in the world, and has a lot of OCD-like qualities as a result of the trauma that she experienced. And so she engages and behaves in ways that are reflective of somebody with post-traumatic stress disorder. And so love is what helps her to heal and to evolve past that. And so there's mystery, there's intrigue, there's twists and turns, there's a significant love interest, there's, you know, it just is a beautiful story. And again, K. Webster delivered it. She did a great job. This for me was a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. And it's short, very quick. You can read it like in a morning or something. So check that out. Okay, so then the last books that I want to are another series. And this is I want to talk about this one separately. But let me talk about book 1 in the Fallen series. And then I can tell you all the other books in the series as well. Okay, so Fallen, and this is written by Lauren Kate. This is a YA story, and let me tell you, it reads like a YA story. The main character in this story, Savannah, she reads like a very, very young high school student. This kind of is a dark academia story in that it starts off with her being moved to like a boarding school, or like a halfway house, a reform school. That's what it is, a reform school. She's moved to a reform school because an incident happened at her previous school in which she kissed this boy, and as a result, he dies. He catches on fire and he dies. Okay, so then the story takes off from there, and you are left as the reader trying to sort out what's going on with her and what's going on with all these other mysterious characters that she comes to know. And in this book, there are significant love interests of Daniel and Cam. And so you're trying to figure out what's going on with Daniel and Cam. I didn't love this story. Everybody raved about this and they thought that it was really good. There is a significant twist, and I don't want to tell you what happens or what the twist is or who Cam and Daniel are, because Savannah is trying to figure out who she is, and Cam and Daniel are significant to who she is and significant to the story. And she is left to try to sort through and understand that. And it's clear that she's lost her memories and she doesn't know who she is, and she's trying to figure it out. And Cam and Daniel are significant to that story. So all the books are a culmination of her discovering who she is and what happened to her and how they can fix it and resolve it, if that's even possible. Okay, so the first book in the series is Fallen. Then you have Torment. Passion, Rapture, Fallen in Love, and Fallen in Love is a novella, so it's the story of, it's several of the sub-characters' stories. It gives you more history about what happened to them and who they are and who their significant love interests are. So again, it's an important story in the grander scheme of things. And then the final book is Unforgiven. And this book was a 5 out of 5. All the rest were 3s. Savannah and Daniel, it is so immature and it reads so much like a YA. Like, I almost feel like, unless you love YA, like, don't even waste your time, because it's just, given the content of dark academia and what they're saying and what they want you to believe, it's just not believable. And it's just not believable with, you know, the voice of the characters. They just are so immature and young that you have a hard time buying what the author is trying to sell you. However, this story, and I don't want to tell you too much about it because it'll spoil all the rest, delivered. In that this is like a second chance romance. It's groveling, and I don't like groveling at all. I like a little tiny bit of groveling. Grovel, get it over, but I don't need you to grovel, because now you're humiliating yourself to me. But in this story, it delivers in that he's got to work at it, and he's got to fix what he's done. And he gets put through a lot, and he stands up and understands what he did and is willing to sacrifice a lot, and does sacrifice a lot, and tries really, really hard, and redeems himself in so many ways that I just thought it was a beautiful story, and I thought that he deserved his own story. And I just wish that all the other books did that. For me, they just did not, and so I felt like it overpromised and underdelivered. So that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and that was my weekly reading wrap up. And you guys know I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I will be back with, I got an unboxing plan for you guys and some other cool things, and I hope that you're enjoying the content, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.